Well, hello everybody. I hope you are doing well in the great big world, both on the inner levels and on the outer levels. This is a talk that, the inspiration is absolutely no problem to find, to fill this up with content as we are moving through some pretty interesting and intense astrological waters for the time being. So I hope you are all doing well. Mars on the nodal axis is known to be pretty, well, it's not for amateurs, as I usually say. It's for those who are used to dealing with Mars. But it's special right now because Mars is in Cancer. And for you, those of you who use, its fall and its detriment and everything, you know that traditional astrology does not think highly of Mars in Cancer. I, on the other hand, I have nothing against it, but, I have nothing against nothing, to be quite honest. I don't deal with pros and cons. I consider things as energies, but I can understand where that comes from in terms of management, in terms of managing energies. And for those of you who follows my work, you know that I'm fairly concerned with management. Not that I'm such a super organizer myself. When I talk about management, I talk about management of energy and not necessarily my organizational skills when it comes to whatever, like cleaning my house or doing my laundry. These are not the management skills I'm talking about. So correct use of energy is definitely what we aim for, and being able to I wouldn't say control, because that's a word that has some negative connotation to it well sometimes. It sounds rigid and it sounds harsh and lacks that kind of organic type of ambience that makes life a flowing state. But when I talk about control, I mean us feeling like we are dealing with things in a way that is not stealing energy from us and draining us completely, or in a way that is not hyper-stimulating us, to be quite honest. These are the two principles we work with in yoga. It's stimulation and depletion. And whenever something is hyper-stimulated or overstimulated, you feel very tense and agitated if it's not flowing well. And we also say in energy that high states of energy can also lead to, it's volatile, it could easily snap. And low states of energy, depletion, turns into stagnation, and we can't get things done. So we want to be in balance. We want to figure out, okay, now I'm a little understimulated. I need to go for a quick walk and just get my energy back, or I need to take a little nap just to get my energy back. It could be either of these two, or now I'm hyperstimulated and I need to calm down somehow, and maybe I need to go for a walk to calm down, or maybe I need to sit for meditation to calm down. Maybe I need to do some catharsis to calm down. It's just anything just to get back focus and that capacity we call leadership. And, that's balancing the yin and the yang. So, yeah, this is what I'm very, concerned with these days. I'm going to share my screen now because I prepared a little PowerPoint. As usual, I enjoy playing around with graphics. And, well, not that I didn't make this one. It's a beautiful picture of Saturn. But I like to make things look beautiful. Oh, it's so nice to look at. And the reason, of course, we are focusing on this Cancer cocktail and the Capricorn squeeze is that there's a lot of things going on the nodal axis. And lo and behold, I forgot to put out an astrology chart for the actual energies. But let's see if I can find that, actually. Let's just take a chart for today. Of course, I had to miss something. And here we go again with my management skills. I always miss something. So I can put it in right here. So just stop the sharing. So if you hear cats in the background, it's probably because there are cats here. Plenty of them. I'm a big cat lover. Now let's see here. Transits. Ta-da! And now we can look at the planets as well. Yummy. Well, the reason I picked, of course, there was this request for doing a little bit more transit work. We want to make evergreens. We want to have stuff that is more philosophical and that lasts forever. But sometimes we just got to go in and check out what's going on right now. And we've all been hearing about 2020 in particular, but 2019 is particularly intense with the south node of the moon going through Capricorn and the north node of the moon going through Cancer, and Saturn and Pluto both residing for quite a long time in both Cancer and Capricorn. So, you know, in itself, you know, there's this huge focus on the south node, a very karmic place in the astrological energy system. It's sort of like a portal of the past opening up. And once there's this focus on this archetype Capricorn, which also deals with history, which deals with how we created our societies, and it's a transpersonal sign, so it deals a lot with all the collective structures, the collective systems, the collective mothering, our capacity to be nurtured through society becomes somewhat of a chapter that we need to look at, both in our lives from a personal point of view, but also at a more political point of view. So it's not very strange that the astrologers worldwide have been anticipating this particular 2019 and 2020, because we've seen this and we've waited for it, and we've, with a certain curiosity and maybe a little hint of ooh, what is happening, fear, we've been waiting for these particular configurations, and now we're here, huh? And we are moving into eclipse season. And I remember going to River of Stars. I gave a lecture on Ceres when I went to River of Stars in 2011. That's a conference that Maurice Fernandez held twice. Maybe he's going to do it again. But in Hawaii, beautiful, nourishing place. It was a great experience. And Richard Tarnas was there to give a lecture about the upcoming 10 years. And this was back in 2011. And that was the first time I heard somebody speak of these powerful configurations. You know, he had been spending a lot of his career simply focusing on historical cycles and the rhythms of history, these cyclical movements that history goes through. And he was particularly concerned about this 2020 shift because, you know, he was quite frankly a little worried. And we have plenty of things to deal with for the time being, you know, that has to do with us. As he said, we have to grow up. We have to either go through the crisis or it will become destruction. And I share his viewpoint when he said that it's very common for humans and humanity at large to deal with things after it's become a real problem. We don't deal with things before it's a problem. We think, it's going to work well. It's going to work well. So we attract these crises in our lives because it sort of just adds up, you know, bits by bits. You get a little bit more of that karma, and suddenly it's just replenished with that karma, and then you have a crisis. And it doesn't happen overnight, it built up, but due to our cognitive dissonance, my capacity to have a certain cognitive dissonance, and every other human being on this earth, we tend to hope for luck and hope for things to just straighten them out themselves. We go so far that our bodies get broken, our systems get broken, our lives get broken, and then we clean up. But even then, a lot of us tend to do it over again. You know, we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And Earth, the condition of Earth today, not to be such a pessimist, because I actually believe that we will do well. We will survive as a species. I have strong beliefs around that. I have strong visions about that. But still, we see now, you know, the trouble with the insects and pictures of Chinese people pollinating, you know, fertilizing by hand these different fruit trees. And, you know, it's starting to become something real. And I see with great pleasure, actually, that environmental politics, especially in Europe, is being taken really seriously. Europe is really seriously dealing with a lot of it. Not enough, of course, but I think it's not going to be long before we have this coming up as something really pressing, you know, due to weather changes and what that does to us, as you know, as it limits our capacity to move around and be free, actually, in this world. Soon we'll be entrapped by bad weather here and there and sudden changes in weather, etc., and so forth. So then it's becoming real. It's like the body gets ill. And I have to say, you know, during my life, during my time here on Earth, I too had to go through that process of having to go through a total destruction before I managed to change. So it's really common for humans to do that. Not only, it's not usual to prepare for, you know, worst case scenario. Some Virgos out there might do that. And we can all learn from their capacity to organize life in all its little details. But Capricorn and Saturn is definitely teaching us responsibility, whether we like it or not. And, you know, I think the word I'm looking for is adulting, you know, this verb, adulting. We are all learning adulting. So on the other hand, you know, with these intense pressures and demands, we have a nice, juicy Cancer cocktail happening at the same time. And it's interesting to see, how are we going to deal with that kind of paradox in these coming months? Because as you can see, there are, you know, oops, come back. There we are. I just wanted to move this thing. I'm not sure if you can see this pointer thing I have on my program, but due to this, you know, the movement of Venus and the movement of the Sun, and now we have Mercury in Cancer. It's also on the North Node in Cancer, and Mars is in Cancer, and there's also Juno in Cancer. Not that I'm going to spend a lot of time on her during this lecture, but there's this thing happening in Cancer because it's summer, and soon the Sun will go into Cancer in about 8 days, and then we will continue to have this energy around Cancer all the way until the end of June, when Mars finally leaves Cancer. And when I say finally, I think we've had enough by then, and moves into Leo. But then again, it's eclipses, and we are having some powerful movement around this axis, Cancer, Capricorn, for the time being. And personally, I think, you know, that is quite intense. I will go step by step through them and show you what I mean. But I think there's a gift in it, of course, but there's also a real deep challenge in these transits, as they are putting into motion something that lies so fundamentally at the core of our inner security systems, our capacity to nourish and nurture ourselves to feel safe in this world, and our capacity to wake up and smell the coffee when it's served. And we have to balance these two dimensions of nurturance, because Capricorn is also a feminine sign, right? It is a sign of a kind of mothering. The society is a mother to its inhabitants. We are being mothered, hopefully, and fathered, parented. We are being molded by society as well as our parents when we are younger. And then we find substitutes for these parents as we grow older, very often, especially if we haven't reached that part inside where we become the leader, or where we become the parent, or when we rise above the need to be needy, and we see that that's my responsibility. I need to do something with this. I brought this upon myself. I need to fix it. Doesn't mean we don't need help. It's very important. We need help as well, but it doesn't mean we're needy. We're ready to deal with it. We're ready to take responsibility for it. We're ready to show up and say, sure, I did it. I was in it. I saw it happening. I didn't stop it. I was ignorant. I denied certain things to myself. I lied to myself. I told myself that it would be different. And then the harsh reality appears. And then, of course, nourishing yourself through times of stress is what I find people aren't very good at. And the best example I can give is that sometimes when I work with people who have been going through fatigue syndromes and are on their way back, a lot of the time they come to me and we try to figure out what can we do right here now. You need to be extremely humble. And the first thing people want to do when they get a little surge of energy, because that's what they get, getting healing, is that they run out and they just want to spend it all. And then they go down again, So being wise in how you treat your needs and choosing wisely, prioritizing wisely what you need to focus your energy on and what you need to let go of that you think you need, but it's actually just taking energy away from you, is what this configuration can be about for a lot of us, purely energy-wise. And that's also, this particular eclipse season is a little wild and crazy because of this Saturn-Pluto, which was never a good aspect for anyone any time. I don't know, we all remember 9/11, right? That was the opposition, and there's been plenty of wars happening with Saturn, Pluto doing something to each other, calling each other up from a square or dancing around like a conjunction here. So it's definitely, it can bring up a lot of these underground energies for sure, but it's not the easiest aspects around. And Liz Green wrote this book called Saturn, A New Look at an Old Devil. And she said, well, Saturn doesn't have a lot of friends. I don't know, she was fairly pessimistic. I tend to go a little bit more spiritual when I look at Saturn. He doesn't have a lot of friends, she said, except Pluto maybe, but who wants a friend like that? That's, from her book. And I remember I'm like, oh, what does she mean by that? It's like, and why are they so good buddies? Like there's a thing here like that has to do with power and being powerful and feeling that you can overcome, that comes in with these two. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but since it's also that surge of energy you get after the crisis, then of course the crisis in itself might call for some extra special nourishment and wisdom on your behalf, because we all make mistakes. Believe me, I made one today. And my first reaction is, of course, oh, what the, you know, like I want to go down on myself and say, gee, think, you know, and I can't do that. Just, you know, like I have to talk nicely to myself. I have to meet myself with tenderness and love and compassion. Otherwise, I'm just going to make things worse. I'm just going to go further down. And I think, you know, like spiraling into the underground, maybe Saturn is there to tell you, wait, you don't have to spiral into the underground, my dear. You are the chief. You are Saturn. You can say, all right, I can go deep into destruction, self-destructiveness. This is what people do when they feel shame, when they feel embarrassed, when they feel they've done something wrong, when they feel they're stupid, when they've actually made a mistake, when they feel like a failure, when they feel like they should speak up but they didn't. Anything that pertains to shame or guilt, you know, once we go into these situations where we feel that, the funny thing happens. It's not funny, but it's so weird. I think it's so weird. Then, at that moment in time when we need more nourishment and understanding and compassion and, you know, love, we meet up in ourselves with judgment, with pointing fingers, with being hard on ourselves. And then it just turns even more bad. You know, we go from bad to worse. And then eventually I think, you know, people can get really stuck into a loop of feeling like a failure, feeling like they're not adding up, feeling like they're not doing what they should be doing in life, and they're always sabotaging themselves. And it's like, once that self-destructive kraken is let loose, you know, there's some powerful energies there that, you know, easily can get out of hand. And that's when we break relationships to pieces. Relationship we might need. That's when we, you know, do things in effect so that, you know, we create this manifestation of this destruction. And I'm fairly concerned about these things because I think, you know, we are here to learn to create. And creation is the opposite of destruction. So how can we not destroy? That's the big question, actually. How can we create? And why is it that a sign like Leo, let's just go a little deeper into the archetypes, is associated with love and creation? Is love and creation two aspects of the same thing? Is it the same, maybe? I think so. I cannot be created unless there's love. You don't want to create something unless you love it. No, you want to destroy it. If you don't have a job you like and you really, really don't like it, you can't see, you know, its worth. I mean, any job is, you know, there's always this weighing. That's good. That doesn't work. Well, it pays the bills, but it's, yeah, and I have some friends there and la, 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 la. There's always this weighing in back and forth. And that's the same with relationship. Oh, that person is kind of like this and that. But, you know, they've got other qualities, so it weighs up again. And you're not like, but when it's pure destruction, it's like there's no faith, no love left. There's absolutely no belief in the relationship, in the work, in the future. There's absolutely no faith, vision left. And that's when destructiveness can go completely overboard. And I just want to, you know, while we're talking about faith, I think it's very interesting that at the same time, we are going through these massive Capricorn energies, which are so interesting, but can they please be over soon? At the same time, we have this, oj sann, kom tillbaka. I thought I was drawing. No, I wasn't at all. Ska vi show? Now I'm drawing. And at the same time, we have this happening. Look at all this stuff happening at 19 degrees. It's just like, who came up with this? Which god are up to mischief now? Everything is over there. It's, you know, it's like, it's a conspiracy. So if you have anything on the 18th, 19th, 17th degree, you are feeling this one for sure. And you have the retrogrades, of course, so it's going back and just reviewing some stuff that you might have missed. But the very interesting square here between Jupiter and Neptune, it's not the first time the square is perfect, it's the second time. And we are in the midst of this Jupiter-Neptune square movement that is happening in mutable signs, as this congestion of planets in Capricorn are happening at the same time. And I remember when I looked into 2019 somewhere, I guess it was sometime around 2018, I thought, oh, that's super bipolar. That's what I thought. That's so bipolar. That's like 1 minute you think, yes, I got it all figured out. Oh, yes, 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 I can rule the world with this energy. And then one little setback and it's back to reality, and it's back to feeling that Saturnian, yeah, sure. Great ideas. You have to perform as well. You have to, it doesn't really impress Saturn that you want to write a book and you got all the ideas. You have to actually write it. That's what Saturn gets impressed by. And Saturn inside of ourselves as well. Every time we go through something where we find mastery, where we think, I can do this, I know I can, I know it's a tough, steep hill upwards, but I can do it, I can, Every time we go through that process of mobilizing our will, we feel mastery. Even if we fail, at least I tried. I think the biggest failure people feel inside themselves is that I didn't even try. Sometimes it's okay to not try something. If it's really, really stupid, don't try it. I think a lot of people with Jupiter, Neptune natally probably thought that a couple of times. Jupiter, Neptune pertains to this whole spiritual process of having faith, then getting new information, losing faith. So if you're struggling with your faith these days, easily we could blame Jupiter, Neptune for sure. It's like there's an explanation to this going on. But what's the underlying purpose of it all? Where is it all driving you? What's the meaning of this? If I were to do this an interpretation of this chart, it's like, I think you're exaggerating occasionally. That will be an understatement. And, yeah, it's cool to go high. But remember, it's better to stay in the middle. There can be no real expansion without a proper foundation. There has to be less chaos in life. Now, how do we avoid chaos if we're in the midst of change? That's practically impossible. So if you're one of these people who felt the ingress of Uranus into Taurus very strongly, there's a whole Uranus in Scorpio generation waiting for the opposition here. These born from 77 and all the way 76, 77, 75, 76, 77. I don't know exactly when Uranus ingressed into Scorpio. There's a whole surge of new powerful energy that is coming through Uranus in Taurus, and it's really shifting a lot of paradigms for people. So many of you might be going through enormous catharsis and sudden changes in your life. It could be anything that has to do with housing, your body, Taurus, your foundation. I mean, Taurus is that sign which wants things to be forever. So if there's stagnation in anyone's life, this stagnated pattern will break up little by little. And when it pertains to the Uranus and Scorpio generation, that can bring up a lot of platonic darkness and fear for a lot of you. And like you have to open up, for instance, you have to share your intimate thoughts and feelings with another. There's this need to heal past traumas, for instance. And, anybody who's going through a massive challenge in their lives with this Uranus-Saturn energy going on, and there's movement maybe from one job to another, from a house to another, from one social status to another, or just through mere identity crisis, you will feel everything is up there. And then this Jupiter-Neptune spawns this fear slash faith, hope, faith, hope, faith. You know, it's this bubble, like one day you will feel great about it. And the next day, poof, you will feel insecure, worn out and tired, and just want to, as I wrote in an article I wrote recently about Mars in Cancer and the whole thing going on, you just want to hit snooze and go back to sleep again, because Cancer needs a lot of time to digest. So on one hand, we have this, yoo-hoo, you can do anything, you know, with Jupiter, Neptune. Uranus is in Taurus, breaking up everything that's stagnant. Saturn, Capricorn, you know, Pluto, Capricorn is like, yes, you know, be the master of your own universe. Create it, do it, push, push, push. And then Cancer, Mars, Cancer, Mercury, and all these others going into Cancer will just go, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. You know, not today. I'm tired. I need to rest. I'm weary of life. I'm weary of this world, maybe even, you know. Living life on Earth is a special experience, right? I think we all can agree on, you know, how incredibly weird and difficult it can be from time to time, and how incredibly lost we can feel, especially when we go through change. And change needs to happen. Stagnation is what put us in the situation that we're in. This stagnant energy that's just on repeat. It's what builds our karmas. And when they start making us diseased, when they're taking energy from us, when they're making us miserable, it's time to actually make a change. But change involves chaos, and chaos puts our faith to test. And that's what Mars in Cancer just wants to go back to sleep. I just wish somebody can come here and mother me. Somebody could just say, so, it's going to be okay. You'll be fine. Don't you worry. And then Saturn, Pluto pops in and says, sweetheart, you should worry. You're an adult now. It's up to you. My father always said, only 99% of the things that you worry about will, you know, is not happening anyway. And then I told him, and I guess I've told this story a billion times before because it's so true. And then I told him, but it's not the 99% I'm worried about. It's that 1% that will happen that I'm worried about. And I don't know which one of these 100% that is. That's the problem. You don't know which. It's like, is it this? Is that? You just wake up one day and you're feeling kind of like, oh, resistance. I've been thinking a lot about resistance these days. You know, Mars in Cancer, and is this, I don't want to get out of bed resistance. I don't want to do it. I just want to stay in. I don't want to go there. I don't want to, it's like resistance is like driving a car with the brakes on. It's like, I don't want to call that bank, or I don't want to mail that mail. I don't want to check that thing, you know, like this oversensitivity to action. I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit here and wait for it to get, is it over? and resistance. I had this incredible visualization of resistance. We call it sometimes procrastination. Maybe we call it fear, anxiety, you can call it as well. I'm afraid to do it. It's not that kind of outspoken kind of panic attack. I'm not talking about that type of anxiety. I'm talking about a more like unwillingness, this kind of due to something, you know, some sort of fear. It feels like fear. And it's not so pronounced. So a lot of this resistance goes unnoticed. Pull yourself together, get over this resistance. I just invite you to talk to your resistance. If you feel you resist things you should be doing in your life. I'm too tired, I don't want to do it, I can do it tomorrow, like that kind of thing. Like if it happens a lot for you, you should just talk to it. And you just say, hey, who are you? What are you doing? What's your need? What is it that you need? And I'm sure you'll get some interesting answers, and you might get deeper into your own resistance. Resistance is part of destruction in a way. It's preventing something to happen. It's preventing a potential to express itself. It's preventing a talent to be seen. Resistance is like a guardian, somebody who keep an eye on the garden and says, hey, you're not coming out, you're not coming in. It's like a protection in a way. And we know Cancer is a very self-protective sign. Why? Why is it that Cancer needs so much time? When is it enough time? When are you ready? You'll never get ready, to be quite honest, but there's a certain timing in everything. And I think right now, you know, both Cancer and Capricorn pertains to maturation cycles. And you can't be an adult before you've been a child. So maybe a lot of you guys are simply mending the gaps. You're learning to mend the gaps, heal the past in a way. Maybe you weren't allowed to be children when you were growing up. You took on this, I have to be an adult. I don't have the luxury to ask for what I need. So you might be in this situation in your life where you really feel like you're going through some extreme contact with your inner child. I've had that, you know, like I think it's amazing. I'm like, oh, I finally know what I feel. Like, I can go really deep too. It's like, oh, yeah, I like it. You know, like I love this proximity to myself actually. And it makes it so easy to show up as a good parent to yourself when you make a mistake or whatever you want to call it. Maybe we need to make mistakes to learn love, to learn to be a true inspiration to ourselves and not be like this harsh, bitter judge. Like, oh, look what you did, you know, huh? Be a fascist against yourself is like really bad energies, you know, about fascism, because when Saturn went into Scorpio in 2012, I think, we had this brown wave, as I called it, hitting Europe hard. It was these right-wing politicians, and in bad times you have a lot of that thing coming up. And yeah, it's, you know, like the party's over. Pluto left Sagittarius and suddenly we had bills to pay and we had to clean up this planet after going bananas with the credit cards and buying all kinds of stuff we don't need. You know, eventually there has to be a cleanup, and that came with Saturn going into Capricorn and the credit crunch in 2018. And 4 years later, you had these brown waves entering every, you know, political arena possible. We've got Brexit, we've got, you know, a large right-wing, half-fascist governments around Europe right now. Actually, it's like, woo, what happened? I thought we were done with that. And what's the solution there? You know, how do we deal with what's weak and what's causing challenges? And, you know, how do we deal with vulnerability? You know, how does fascism deal with vulnerability? They don't. They kill it. They're just like, oh, we have a problem. Let's just kill them. That's a great way to deal with it. Problem gone. We just want this strong people. We don't want nobody coming here taking all our money. We had this immigration problem with the Syria conflict and everything, people coming into Europe big time. Then you see who's the generous ones. I'm not very proud of my own country in that behalf, because we had a right-wing, you know, we still have a right-wing government actually. Same, you know, nah, can't take too many refugees. Somebody else can take them. And it's kind of like the solidarity which we saw after World War II is just completely gone. And I feel there's a strong revival of World War II energies in this particular configuration, Saturn Pluto on the South Node. I know that I've gone through some incredible, you know, inner work that pertains to this. I remember I saw this movie called Das Boot, for instance, during this particular phase, and it was purely coincidental. I just, you know, it was somebody else who showed it to me. And I had like a massive reaction on that energy. I was like, ooh, yeah, something's coming up. We should all remember, huh? To be showing up in society and holding space for that which is compassion. And Das Boot is a very good example, actually, because it's about a submarine and it's filled with German soldiers. And these Germans aren't there voluntarily. Yeah, they had a Jupiter-Neptune surge and started believing in some savior or in their leader, and we're going to win this thing. And they had this moment, but I'm sure, as the film portrays very realistically as well, this, inside that boat where they're all trapped, they're starting to lose like complete, all their illusions are just gone one by one. And they go through this complete breakdown of what are we doing, And then you realize these people are just humans. It's so touching. It's like I could not hold my tears back. It's just people. It's people. And if we continue to treat each other like objects, we're going to have a world that is continuously looking upon nature as a thing as well, people as things. And that for me is definitely part of, a little bit the part of the wound of World War II. Because the Jews, they were just things, for the whole mentality is just things we need to get rid of, along with people with disabilities. And we still have that attitude going on in our society. Fascism, racism, slavery, treating people as less valuable than yourself. And that's not the nourishing, warm society that Cancer says is needed as well. Holding space for that which is not ready yet. I'm not perfect. I need to snooze a little bit longer, Maybe I need a lifetime of snoozing. I don't know. Who can say what is right for one human being and what is right for another? If we only want strong people on this planet, a lot of us has to go, Ain't room for you, man. Can't have that type of people around, this selectiveness is like, we like that type of people, not those. Go. And we see massive problems with this. And there's more karma in it too. Once we get started, I just felt the portal opened. There's this karma that comes to the United States, for instance, which is a very important country in a world connection, in a world context for the time being. It's like Rome all over again, in a way. It's an empire, in a way. We've had many empires on planet Earth, and they've all gone through, they seem to recycle themselves on different places on Earth. It's like, now we're the world power. Now we are the world power. It's like, it's always happening. But the ideals that the United States were founded on are so good. They're humanitarian in many ways. There are all these freedoms, the right of the individual to be treated as an individual and not a thing. And a lot of those who came out to the United States once there was this surge of people moving were people who were fed up by the dictatorship that was the Catholic Church, for instance, or, who couldn't get proper jobs, who didn't have enough land, who were tired of paying taxes to that type of system, who wanted opportunities, who wanted to be treated as a complete human being, who wanted to, change the game. But there is a piece of karma that was a little unfortunate and came into, like the old snuck on board on the ship, and it planted itself into the consciousness. And again, slavery. And now we have this corporate slavery. People are slaves to their jobs. And we have this huge problem that is still there. And it's something that is individual. It's in your life. It makes you go to work much more than you should according to your bodily needs. You have less money than you should have according to your emotional needs. You don't feel safe. You work your ass off, for instance. Because we all belong to this system of abuse. Oh yeah, so we're still here. And neither me and you can do this and it's gone, but it's there. And a lot of what comes up today, if it's like you being in situations where you felt loss, pain, grief due to these wars, and you really need to nurture yourself, this is an excellent time to heal the wounds of the past. Really an excellent time. And yeah, I'm talking. I can easily just talk my way out of not showing you these beautiful things that I made. You know, I made this one for Cancer, and this is such a beautiful statue. You know, look at Cancer. It's a woman. She lived. I forgot her name. She was born in 1916 or something, and she lived up until 1970 or something. And she made this beautiful zodiac statues. And look at that. There's a little moon up here. You know, this little moon on top of the Cancer, and I think she's so beautiful. You know, I just sat there and looked at all these pictures. I'm gonna give you the link if I can find you to all the pictures at the Zoom group after we're done with this one, so you can all see. But I thought she was so beautiful there. She's sitting in her shell. She's resting. Her face is in her hands. And Cancer, just, you know, what can we learn from Cancer in this time, you know? How can we be safe in this world, huh? How do we gain security in a world that's constantly changing? We're changing. Everything is changing all the time. We're constantly spinning around our own axis. How do we find safety? How do we find, and how do we nourish that part of ourselves? Cancer is that ability to be at home in life. You know, I'm home, I'm here in life. And then you feel and trust the guidance of what you like and you don't like. You start saying no to things, actually. You start saying, no, that doesn't sit good, or that doesn't feel good. And I really don't think I should do that. You dare to say no to things. You reject that which you cannot digest. You can't just eat and eat anything and expect your body to be able to digest it. Cancer is the digestive system. So it's learning to eat nourishing things for yourself in a more symbolic and, of course, in a literal way. Nourishment. And then you have to listen to your body. And then Cancer is also about creating a personal connection with people. We can't do everything alone. Cancer is solidarity in many ways. When it works well, it's like, oh, really? It's like a healer. It's like, oh, I totally understand where you're coming from. I can see you, you know, I feel you. And this connection with people, work, family, and home, I think a lot of what's going on these days is exactly that type of healing, you know. All the distrust, everything you lost, I'm not going to love again because I lost my lover in World War II, whatever, you know, and I still remember it, it echoes through my mind. I'm not going to love again because once I was betrayed. I cannot forgive because what that person did to me was completely, it shattered my life, you know. So I feel we're purifying a lot of that. It's just coming up whether we like it or not. But Cancer is about, you have to get there in order to be safe, right? Safety first. If you don't feel safe, huh? When I made a mistake earlier today, I felt so unsafe. It's like, oh, no, I feel super unsafe. And when I felt it, I was like, I would just normally say, oh, that stresses me out. But instead, I managed to sort of like put a word to the feeling that was more precise. I feel unsafe, yeah. But that's interesting. Because then it becomes something, it becomes concrete. And then you can ask for that hug, or you could ask for that love, or you could do whatever it is that brings you back into equilibrium. You might not get guarantees, which safety always wants, but you know, you let go of control. That's part of Cancer, huh? Letting go. You're not going to get 100% guarantee that this will work out, you know? Trust is something you give. Capricorn, look at Capricorn. Oh my God, that is such a hot picture of Capricorn. I'm like, finally, somebody realized how sensual this sign can be, and sexual. But this is really like, look at that. She's opening up to the higher realms for sure. Cancer, the Capricorn is the one at the top of the mountain. You probably heard other people who are into esoterics explain Capricorn like that. The one who's coming all the way up in evolution, like it's a bodhisattvic state of mind. You see things, you start seeing things. It's like, oh, I cannot lie to myself anymore. And then you come back, you know, Capricorn comes down again. I am one with the light supreme. Suprenal, I think they call it. And now I return and I go back and I give that knowledge to the others. So there's great wisdom. But Capricorn aims to get to the top. In a consensus state, that might translate into ambition. If you feel overly hyper-driven because you feel insecure these days, and then you compensate by, if I only get super ambitious, I'll manage to get where I'm supposed to go. Then maybe the ambition is not coming from the right intention. And with Capricorn, it's always important intention. Intention drives your actions. And you won't get perfect intentions. I'm doing it because it's part of my spiritual plan. You know, you're doing it because you innately knows that it will teach you something. And you're willing to go that path. And that's, you know, the top of what? The top of the ladder of consciousness, for instance. Capricorn is that thing that gets up in the morning with a plan to achieve. And it's driven to find security. Again, it's also a security sign. What do you say, huh? In the world through positioning. If I'm only at the top, then I'll be safe. Yeah, that's kind of like a false ideal or a false form of security. And with this Cancer Capricorn axis going on, I think we'll all explore a little bit about what's real security and what's false security. A challenge with Capricorn is that duty takes over personal needs. That's sometimes good. Sometimes you have to let go of your needs, and other times you really should take care of them. So, yeah, don't strain yourself too hard. Don't work too hard. Don't overwork it. Don't come from the right intention, and you will see the work flows more easier. Capricorn rests when the work is done. Have you ever felt that? I'm just going to do the laundry and then I'm going to sit down. Sometimes, due to all these Cancer things, you won't have energy to do the laundry, and I'm just going to do a little bit more. Yeah, I'm coming right now, darling. Could be family needs. Your kids are screaming at the top of their lungs, see me, see me. Yes, darling, I just have a little bit of work left to do. You know, this is a lot about, you know, how we show up with each other's, you know, with presence. Cancer needs something that is available. Are you available, or are you on your phone? Are you checking your mails? Are you chatting with somebody? You know, they want you to be there. Are you feeling me? Because if you're constantly in your work, in your other duties, and neglect the duties of your own family or whatever it is, this balance, this can cause, I mean, some frustrations in family relationships. So it's about priority, right? And proper priority includes that which is important for us, not that which we think is important for us, that which is really important for us and makes us really feel like we're doing the right thing, because that's essentially what Capricorn wants to do. I want to do the right thing. I want to be in alignment. And as I sit here, I can feel my spine going, woo-hoo. I'm aligning with my, I don't know what to call it, astro muse. I have some sort of astral connection, and every time I go into reading, it's there. It's like I start feeling this energy in my spine. Yeah? I open up. Capricorn is the spine. You open up to what? To flow. So you can do a lot of work with what? With no effort at all. I've been working since 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's 10 p.m. now. Non-stop. I'm not tired. It's like I did a Cancer thing, you know, a couple of hours in the afternoon, I went up with my daughter. We went, it was beautiful weather. I was laying down in the grass and I counted bumblebees. That's what I did, actually. And it's true, I did it. And after, I felt so replenished because I did the one thing people are unwilling to do, and it's to lay down and receive. You can't just do. You have to breathe too. You have to receive too. Prana. You have to receive energy from the universe as well. You can't just give, which is kind of what Capricorn wants. Now, if we go back to our chart, sorry, I'm sure if I can share this one. We see Oisam. Hello. Okay, we see Ceres. I've been working a lot with Ceres for you who knows my work, and that's kind of like nourishment. It's control. It has a lot to do with control, Ceres, because there's been a platonic trauma. So anything Ceres, any transit to Ceres, any aspect in your chart to Ceres definitely puts you in this situation where you gotta understand where you're holding tightly control over certain things and being afraid to let go and let change happen in a way. And with Ceres going retrograde in Sagittarius, she will go all the way back until 0 degrees Sagittarius and spend a long time in Sagittarius. She's sort of like telling us that, you know, real nourishment lies in trusting. Trust. Have faith. Have faith. And this faith thing comes back again over and over again. Who's your friend? My friend is faith. Who's your friend? My friend is the belief that I'm a good human being and good things will happen for me because I'm doing my best. And then you have to ask Saturn, am I doing my best? And Saturn goes, if he's very strict, he'll say, you will never do your best. It will never be good enough. That's a bad Saturn. A good Saturn will say, yes, I can see, my child, you are doing your very best. You tried. It was an honest try. And then you can rest. It's like, because I think inside us, we let go of paranoia then. And then we think, oh, then the gods will be great to us. And they, you know, we are the creators. The gods live within us, as us. The chart is inside us, right? So, faith is restored, light is restored. Ceres says, when there's faith, you can move gently through change. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. So Ceres is this journey from dependency to attachment. You know, it's the whole going into the death and the mourning and reviving again and losing your identity and change in periods of change. Sometimes, you know, it can be really brutal, the changes. There's this abduction happening in Ceres, the mythology of Ceres. She loses her daughter to Pluto, who snatches her from her, and she loses her identity, and she goes around trying to find it again. Have you been there where you're trying to get back into the past again because you're just looking for that thing that's the innocence? The daughter is the innocence. It's that la la la, everything is going to be fine, life is great. You know, if you have kittens or you have little children, you see they have that light. It's like, nothing is dangerous. And then kapoof. Oh, that was intense. So we've all been through that many times. Every time we go through next stage, and we know Saturn is all about initiations into higher levels of consciousness. So you get more and more and more information about this is your responsibility. This is your, you become more and more and more and more an adult. It doesn't mean you lose your child. You might. That's not a true, full human being. A true, full human being has contact with the creative child inside and nourishes it and takes care of it. But it also says to the child, you have to sit there now because dad is working or mom is working. I have to do other stuff now. But we've all been through difficulties, you know, on planet Earth here today. And Ceres is this journey from dependency and attachment to the underworld where we face death and chains, and back again to trust. And then fertility, your creative juices come back again. Instead of you sitting going like, oh my God, panic attack, you're like, okay, are we alive? We're alive. Okay, let's move. Let's be fertile again. Let's create something. Okay, that was chaotic. Let's clean it up, you know. Let's create fertility again. What is fertility? Fertility is energy. It's juiciness. It's full. It's replenished. It's like spring. All the leaves are just so juicy. You can almost drink them. And with her being in Sagittarius for the time being, I think, you know, a little bit about getting nourished through nature, getting nourished through cosmos. Sagittarius is related to cosmos in many ways. Getting nourished through your own pilgrimage. You were doing something, go back to it through your spirituality, through your intuition. Getting nourished through your intuition. That's pretty interesting, huh? Like, yes, I let that intuition that I had that this will work out fine actually nourish me. So I see this is an interesting phase for her, you know, much better than going through Scorpio, but, you know, not that intense, you know, but it's much more about, you know, nourishment through faith. Remember your vision. Remember what you were doing before you got afraid. So I think she's very helpful in this particular eclipse time, you know. Go out, hug a tree, you know, be with nature, play with people, you know, like have fun. That's also very nourishing. Have some fun. Sagittarius loves to have fun, don't they? That's what I heard. And Vesta is also going through Taurus. Taurus is also, you know, both Vesta and both Taurus and Sagittarius are very independent signs. You know, they'd like to do their own thing in their own rhythm, in their own space. You know, it's like Taurus can be extremely autonomous, don't need people, don't need to, you know, get out so much, just loves to be in and create these beautiful little harmonies. And I have a Taurian friend, she has a garden on her porch, and she's like, isn't it beautiful? I just like to sit here and watch them, and I feel so nourished by it, you know. And I love her creativity. She's always doing something, she's creating something, she's making something, and it's so inspiring. She's just in herself. And Vesta as well is the will to move deep into yourself and find the connection to the mystery and to the imagination again. It's that fire it's a fire goddess. And in that way you connect with that love that protects everything. You need that protection more than anything right now. Vesta was unmarried, Ceres was unmarried. These are deities that pertains to individuation processes in the feminine. And for those of you who are interested, I'm going to give a longer in-depth class about the individuation of the feminine in not so long. I'm working on the material right now, and I'm very excited about it because it's super good healing material that I'm like, people need to know this. Like, I have faith. But I'm serious. It's really, really important. What are these goddesses, and what does it mean that they're not married? Huh? She's independent woman, but not in the kind of way we got to understand it. Like, it means like I don't need anything. She's connected, of course, to the sacred masculine. She's connecting in herself. And that is the love that connects and protects everything. I really love Vesta. And she's going to be through Taurus, you know, this summer. And I think we all get a very good opportunity, like there's a window of opportunity that opens up for us when we connect with Vesta and Ceres, that can take away the intensity, or at least heal a lot of the intensity that this Cancer Capricorn axis, with all the trauma work and all the trouble with the family and work and you know, it's a lot. And all these disillusion that comes with Jupiter and Neptune. You know, I think Ceres and Vesta can help us connect through the body, through our senses, do something simple, just if life sucks, at least Vesta comes in and says, well, you can create a sacred spot here, and then you can create a sacred spot here, and you can create it. Oh, look, you created a lot of sacred spots today. Wonderful. Your life will be sacred soon. And that's the kind of ecstasy that Vesta moves around in. It makes her, of course, extremely sensitive, and maybe you feel you need to withdraw a little bit from certain relationship during her time in Taurus, and connect with yourself at a much deeper level. Not that you ignore the world, you show up and do your work. Saturn Pluto is in Capricorn, but you take time out from everything as well, and you say, now it's time for me. I love me first. Actually, I met this pop princess this summer, Aurora. She's called. It was spring, and went backstage with her. And it was a privilege, of course. I mean, she's world famous. I don't know if you've heard of it. She's this little fairy from the north, Aurora. She's doing this very funny little dancing thing. Gemini, super sweet. Like this little, she's like a fairy. I mean, I can't explain her in other words. And we talked. I'm a Gemini, she's Gemini, like blah, blah, blah. And she's dating somebody, and I said, oh, so lovely, like in this old woman fashion. I felt suddenly very old. Oh, how lovely, it's love, that's what I said. And then she looked me so sternly into the eyes, and she said, yes, but I love myself first. She said, she actually said, I love myself more. And I thank the gods for giving me that gift. That's Aurora. It's not that that's what she gave me. And it was so empowering. So that's what it takes, to be protected through the power of love. Love yourself more. And if you have want and need, just so that we can, wrap it up with a little commercial. We are inspired. Some of you might know, I work with the New Paradigm Astrology. And Christina Caudel has done these eclipse journeys, or these eclipse groups. And it's just, eclipse times are interesting portals of time. Many people feel them very strongly, others don't. But it's, especially this eclipse season is interesting. And we were inspired to do something together. So we're going to do 4 Tuesdays in a row, beginning July 2nd, where we're going to work with that balancing yin and a yang. I'm doing the lunar eclipse in mid-July, and it's the yin quality of receiving. How do we receive? How do you become more receptive? How do you become more Vesta? How do you become more serious? How do you become more Cancer? How can you replenish yourself after all this chaos or all these demands? And it's going to be a nice work group. So if you're inspired to do something special for yourself this summer, this might be something you could consider. I added the little, I'm going to post it on the Zoom group as well, if I can. I added the little link so that you can go in and check. We started enrolling now. So yeah. It's 4 teachers. I forgot to mention that. It's 4 teachers, and Kai Pasha is going to pop by as well. But it's Christina Caudel, Timothy Halloran, Ari Moshe Wolf, and me. And we're going to do not just, it's not an astrology class, it's a healing class. So it's meditations, healings, inspirations, insights, a more dynamic, experiential class. Yeah. Yahoo! I think I talked a lot. Anybody wants to ask me anything? I see I'm only 10 minutes over time, which is good to be me, actually. That's kind of like a new record. I thought I'd been talking forever. Was a lot of info there. But if anybody has anything they want to share, or anything they wonder about that I didn't cover, or just anything, it would be super sweet to hear from you guys. But I know when I talk, I went to Norway not so long ago. I met some of you there. And it was a great experience, although the jet lag wasn't that fun. But, it was definitely worth it. And, you know, there's always these lectures, and normally there's a lot of people asking questions after lectures. I don't have that. It's not what other people get. You're like, normally I just don't, the whole audience is just quiet after I'm done talking, and I'm like, is that wrong, or is that good, or is it bad? And I experienced that, you know, a lot of times, that people are just quiet after I've been talking, and I'm like, I hope that's a good thing. So if you don't have anything, then of course I would just say, I think I've done my thing, Linda.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sol.